Since its inception, the Angry Birds franchise, no matter its incarnation, has always depicted the coexistence of the birds and pigs, typically characterizing them as bitter enemies. The bad piggies are the main antagonists of the series, with their mission being to poach the birds' eggs and feed them to their king. In order to prevent them from retrieving their eggs, the pigs construct complex structures to ward off the infuriated birds. Unlike the flock, there are seemingly countless bad piggies, though at their core, each fall under one of four variations: the basic minion pig, the helmet pig, the mustache pig, and the king pig. Starting with the big setup, the pigs begin to wear various hats and accessories that typically match the theme of the given episode. For example, in the Western-themed 5th episode known as Ham 'em High, the pigs can be seen wearing cowboy hats and sombreros. In the underground mining-themed episode Mine and Dine, the pigs can be seen wearing miner hats and carrying shovels and pickaxes. Though more commonly, these accessorized pigs are featured in Angry Birds seasons to help differentiate the various holiday-themed episodes. This characteristic of the pigs makes them perfect for merchandising, as you can create nearly any derivative of a pig by simply placing a hat on them, and selling it as if it were something brand new. Naturally, that's what Commonwealth Toys decided to do. As we touched upon briefly last time, in August of 2011, Toywiz.com added 4 pre-order listings for upcoming special edition sets. 3 of these sets are based upon Angry Birds seasons and were listed under the Birds Plush tab on the Angry Birds page. The 4th could be found by navigating to the Pigs Plush page and scrolling to the bottom. Dubbed by Toywiz as the set of 4 pigs with hats plush figures, it was set to include a sombrero hat king pig, a chef hat pig, a cowboy hat pig, and a construction hat pig. Priced around $65, Toywiz claimed pre-orders were to ship in September, an entire month earlier than any of their listings. However, this deadline was not intransigent, as the shipment date kept getting pushed back until orders were finally fulfilled in January of 2012. During their perpetual postponement, this Accessorized Pig set would see its fair share of changes, rendering each item completely different than what was initially advertised. At some point before orders were shipped, the Sombrero King Pig was removed from the set, being replaced by an obscure pause screen character, the Postman Pig. Likely unintentionally, the Toywiz listing referred to him as the Engineer Pig, potentially foreshadowing a future rodeo title. At the time, the Postman Pig was a relatively new quality of life feature displayed at the bottom corner of pause menus of Angry Birds games. Essentially, he delivered the advertisements to the player, though when pressed he disabled them for players who'd rather not see the intrusive promotions. Doing so would actually cause the Postman sprite to change from cheerful to upset, which supposedly was an attempt to make the player feel guilty for their decision. It was this niche character that would end up outright replacing Ham 'em High's boss character, which certainly was an odd decision. This wasn't the only noticeable difference of the updated listing, as the Chef Pig appeared to receive an entirely new plush model featuring a wide smile to convey his exuberance. The other 2 characters appeared to remain the same between the listings, though this wasn't exactly the case. As you can tell, these product images on Toywiz have a tendency to be quite misleading or downright inaccurate, and this was the case yet again. The Cowboy Hat Pig and the Construction Hat Pig were in fact changed for their official release, as they'd feature fragile hats in place of the plush ones shown in the listing. I assume whoever was in charge of providing product images to these retailers didn't exactly care about these precise details, nor did the consumers for that matter. The Accessorized Pigs officially debuted on Toywiz.com in January of 2012, with listings for each set piece individually and the entire set for a slight discount. This and the Winter Attire set were released around the same time and were the first limited edition sets released for the plush range, as both were offered exclusively in the 6-inch size variation and sold exclusively online through Toywiz. This set would eventually make its way to specialty retailers such as the official Angry Birds shops, FYE, and Fry's Electronics. Chef Pig and Postman Pig retailed for $14.99, while Cowboy Hat Pig and Construction Hat Pig retailed for $18.99, a $4 price discrepancy which I cannot explain. Each character was highly accurate to their in-game counterpart, with the exception of Chef Pig, who had yet to appear in an Angry Birds game, though he did in the Mighty Eagle cinematic trailer. Speaking of Chef Pig, his plush came with a large baker hat stitched above his ears, and carried a devious grin that will forever serve as the symbol of this plushie's nostalgia. Unlike Chefy, Postman Pig's model was based upon the regular Minion Pig, though I've always thought he deserved a smile to match his in-game appearance. Regardless, it was a fantastic plush, with a perfect multicolored mail cap on his head, and a satchel around back so nobody would mistake him for the Mechanic Pig. Cowboy Hat Pig was actually based upon the Mustache Pig, making this piece rather unique within the set, though I always wonder why it was chosen over the Sombrero King Pig. Always wish this hat was made of actual leather instead of felt, but at least the shaping is spot on. And of course, the greatest plush of all time, the Construction Hat Pig, who just exudes a sacred aura quite unlike any other plush. With a bright yellow hat tilted ever so slightly to his right with a game-accurate 3 bumps, this is a character that is indeed real, much to my own disbelief 4 years ago.
look at him. Just look at him. Look, I'm breathing hardly. Look at him. Just look at it. It's real! Ah!
This is an item that means a lot to me. It's what many of you think of when you see my channel. It's what spawned the signature catchphrase that's been parodied throughout the community. And it's certainly my favorite piece of merchandise ever. But the story of the Accessorized Pigs doesn't end there. Commonwealth would continue producing the set until late 2012, around the beginning of the light blue era, though if you were lucky you could still find them at retailers or pay a little bit more than you otherwise would have on Toywiz. By mid-2013, it was becoming apparent that Toywiz was running short on inventory for the set, evidently causing further price gouging. All four would go completely out of stock in 2014, spelling an end to the Accessorized Pigs run and ushering in their legendary status within the Plush community. But their tale wasn't quite over yet, as Commonwealth launched an all-new online toy store in March 2016, where consumers could buy their products directly through them without intermediary interference. Their selection wasn't all too extensive, though it provided another avenue for collectors to browse other than eBay. But you may ask, how is this the case? I thought Commonwealth Toys ceased production of classic Angry Birds products in 2014, so where were these coming from? Well, inquisitive viewer, allow me to provide some rather interesting information I obtained via Commonwealth's CEO. Yes, you heard that correctly. At the time, they still had plenty of plush toys still lying around and still had the ability to sell them, as their licensing agreement with Rovio had yet to expire. They figured they could make a quick buck by simply selling off the remaining inventory, whether it was something quite common or incredibly difficult to find. Thankfully, most prices were reasonable, but you could tell which characters they knew were collector favorites. For the purposes of this video, a few new listings were added to the shop in May, which happened to be two of the infamous Accessorized Pigs. But there was something different about them this time around. Somehow, someway, there was a reprint of the Postman Pig and a never-before-seen construction hat pig with a plush hat, both available to anybody who happened to be on the site. This would later happen to Chef Pig too, as his listings would resurface on Amazon.com not long after by a seller known as Sallow Toys, who also happened to have listings for Postman Pig as well. As I was told, Commonwealth Toys capitalized on the demand for these pigs by essentially re-releasing them in order to make a quick buck. Sallow Toys was simply a trusted intermediary in charge of Amazon sales. Chef Pig and Postman Pig were still possible to replicate even years later, but Cowboy Hat Pig and Construction Hat Pig were a more difficult task. According to the CEO, it was no longer possible to produce the old felt hats, though they attempted to create a substitute for Construction Hat Pig, which is why this variation exists. I asked whether it was a unique sample or made in significant numbers, though not even he knew its story. Evidence of people owning this plush does indeed exist, such as the infamous Angry Birds boy, which adds further confusion as to what exactly this plush is. There are a few ways you can differentiate these later releases from the earlier ones, namely by their fur texture. Traditionally, big plushies had a matte fur texture, but these post-production variations feature the fluffy fur commonly seen on bird plushies. Just compare my two Postman Pigs. There's a clear difference between their fur textures and frankly their colors too. The other methods are for tag collectors, as the newer variations have light blue era tags as they were made post-2012. Though interestingly, the pressier tag no longer used the Automata shark font, and some of the last ones ever made didn't even attempt to replicate the original tags, simply saying "try me." Their peculiarity doesn't end there, as some of the tush tags in the final editions had the Commonwealth logo instead of the Angry Birds logo, and no side tag either. This was because Commonwealth's licensing agreement with Rovio had expired when production ceased in the movie Plushies in 2018, so they could no longer use the Angry Birds logos on their products by law. Once that happened, they decided to stop producing more to avoid any legal trouble, and put an end to their Angry Birds merchandise. So there you have it, a comprehensive overview of the infamous Commonwealth Angry Birds Accessorized Pigs plush set. For a set consisting of just 4 characters, it has a complicated history because of how sought after they became. Probably because it features 4 significant and specific pig characters that add that extra sizzle to anybody's collection due to their inherent reputation. It's certainly my favorite set, perhaps due to a certain character within it, but more so because of its unique history, both from a collector perspective and an Angry Birds fan perspective. If you have any comments, questions, or complaints, you can let me know in the comment section below. With that I say, peace out. One last note before we conclude. I want to mention something particularly interesting about this set, specifically the sound chip placement on the first edition pigs. Finding them with sound chips is an uncommon occurrence, but they do indeed exist, and yes, all 4 characters could have one. For Chef Pig and Postman Pig, there's nothing special, but check out Cowboy Hat Pig and Construction Hat Pig.
Look at this dude.
Their sound chips are in their mouths, which is probably the only logical place they could have put them. These are extremely rare variations, and I think they'd be worth collecting for the sheer novelty of having one with this strange chip. Probably not great for display purposes though.